Hello, hello. So here we are again, Sophia, Barna, and Paula, Felicia de Candia. Um, Heart-to-heart conversation, psychology and the daily usage of it, I guess, or experience. We want to discuss today the levels of consciousness, rather the map of consciousness, because the levels of consciousness first were sort of discussed by Freud, if I remember well. And Hopkins is the one that you've studied with or his work, and I think he's the latest on the list of the philosophers and psychotherapists and teachers and scientists and whatnot. So today we are here to reach as many people as we can. We welcome you. We welcome your questions. We want to know if we can make this better and if we can touch your hearts, your minds, and trigger something to ignite maybe a curiosity to learn more about who you are, life, and everything else in between. So Sophia Barna, she is a registered psychotherapist. She's been in practice for over 30 years. I'm a registered homeopath in practice for over 23 years, almost 25 actually. And I'll give you the baton, Sophia, if you'd like to
Thank you,
introduce us to
Paula.
that.
Yes, thank you. This is lovely to be here together once again. And today we will start talking on the same topic about the psychology for our daily life. But this time this is our first meeting starting talking about the connection between psychology, psychotherapy, and spirituality. And I personally learned, I've been personally interested in spirituality and psychology for the a very long time, um, but integrating it in my work, in my career, this bridge happened many years ago, about perhaps 10, 12 years ago, when I discovered the work of the American psychiatrist David R. Hawkins. And he pioneered this work. He dedicated a big part of his life on connecting this to psychology, psychiatry, psychotherapy, and consciousness.
Mhm,
And out of his work, he developed this map of consciousness that describes different states based on the intensity, the frequency that each state contains. And
mhm,
he developed this map on a scale from 0 to 1,000. This is a logarithmic scale, so everything it's at the power of 10. And each state, from the lowest, starting with shame and guilt, to the highest, enlightenment or awakening, describing the scale with each state in between on the human consciousness level. So the maximum, even 10,000 at the power of 10, as Hawkins said, that it's what our nervous system, human nervous system, can sustain at this point in our evolution. But this scale, it's infinite, it's beyond our human realm. But in our terms, these states are described again based on the amount of life energy or life force that it contains. And each of these state colors our view of ourselves, our view of life, of our problems, even our view of divinity.
mhm,
And it also kind of dictates our life experience. So everything in our life we can imagine as if we are a radio device, and based on the frequency, the channel that we are accessing, everything connects on that frequency. That's why it is said that we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are. So the critical part is the state of consciousness that where we are at, and this is not, although it's connected with different emotions, different views, beliefs, perceptions. It doesn't equate with our feelings, although it's reflected, it's colored in certain feelings, but it's a state. So the difference could be between the weather and climate. So the weather is changing all the time. We can have different types of weather in the same day versus the climate. It's more stable, and we tend to function on the same frequency, the same level of consciousness pretty much for our whole life if we don't make any changes on purpose, if we don't work on raising our level of consciousness. Hawkins said that in a lifetime, without any purposeful intervention, we might maybe fluctuate maybe 5 points on the state of consciousness left to our own devices. But of course, nowadays, especially during our times when there is such a tremendous shift at the level of humanity in the level of consciousness, this is more than ever, it's more possible to access and to raise our level of consciousness to
So
the
does it mean that
maximum
if we
that
get
we
older, then we don't get wiser? Darn it. You know,
can.
unless we study.
Well, we do get wiser in a way if we make a point in getting wiser. Otherwise, we don't by itself. We don't. There is this beautiful saying that we don't learn from our experiences. We learn from our reflection on our experiences. So the reflection requires awareness, requires us to pause and evaluate and take that observer stance to see what's been working for me, what the purpose of our history and history in general is to learn from it. But it doesn't learn itself, it repeats itself
Yeah.
unless we make a conscious effort to learn from it, to see what's working and not, and to make the required shifts that we want for our life.
Isn't it amazing? It's all about patterns, patterns that are happening in our life. And if we observe and become aware, then hopefully we can
Make
change
some
the
shifts.
trajectory of, yeah.
Yes,
Otherwise,
yes,
it be the same, and then we're not aware.
exactly. We repeat the history, we go in the sleeping mode, subconscious, and you are right, those patterns, those software programs that were created in the back of our mind somehow especially in the first part of our life, but throughout all our life,
Yeah,
they go in the subconscious, and if left in there, and left in the basement, in the shadows area, they have tremendous power, and they act like any software that we install in our computer, but we are not aware of them, and then we struggle, we are trapped, we get stuck, we are trapped in suffering and helplessness, and our life experience becomes very difficult, and the more forces we put, the more we struggle without seeing what needs to be seen in truth first, the harder it becomes. So today we will have an overall presentation of this map of consciousness, and then starting with our next meetings, we will take each level one by one. But today I want to give a brief
overview.
overview of the whole map. So I will use an image as well, just to about this map. So I was saying that it's yeah, it's as Hawkins developed it, presented it, it's from 0 to 1,000, and it contains different states, starting with the lowest ones, with the lowest frequency, shame and guilt at the level of 20 and 30th. And these are really at the core of the onion, core of our suffering, of our experience in this lifetime, that sometimes we feel it as as hell on earth, rather than with the higher states that where we experience life more and more like heaven on earth. So there are these three distinct zones in the map. There is the lowest zone below the level of 200, the level of courage. So in this zone, shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, and pride, these are the levels that keep us once again stuck and suffering and in pain, in a struggle with ourselves, with life, with one another. And once we cross this gate, is the essential gate, level of 200, the level of courage that really takes us in the area of starting to experience life as heaven on earth, as I was saying. And then the higher we go, the higher our level of happiness it is, of our well-being, of health, of satisfaction with life, of fulfillment, of even meeting our purpose in this life. So with the level of courage 200, then neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, and then we cross into the third land of this map, starting with the level of love, a level of 500, once again at the power of 10. And this is the love where the critical point in it is the unconditional part. So comparing to the what we learned in human terms about love, which is more on the level of desire and possessiveness and fear, and it's this trade where we are bounded to attachment connections, to fear of losing, to getting, to finding our well-being or searching for our being outside of ourselves, versus love, where actually true spirituality begins as well with a level of love. It's once again, it's unconditional, it's completely free, and it's not just an emotion, it's a state of being, it's a state of I amness. So it's no longer I am getting love, or I'm pursuing love, or I need love, or I'm giving love. It's
Love.
being love, and it's a space. It's a very, very, very high frequency. The
It's
higher
very
we go,
interesting. If I can interrupt you for
yes,
1 second,
yes,
I'm looking in my mind for some reason, in my heart, I thought that love would be with the acceptance, but it's interesting because on this scale, I'm looking and I see acceptance couple of rows under the love.
yes,
So
three
acceptance comes
350.
first.
So it's a
Yeah, and
precondition. Acceptance, it's the state before that level 350, and it's a prerequisite if you want. But then love
yeah,
goes higher than acceptance. Acceptance comes indeed with serenity and peace. Acceptance, it's also somehow similar to neutrality. Neutrality at a bit lower to 250 is where we are no longer attached to any outcome. We are no longer attached to being right, or needing to have it our way, or needing to have an opinion. It's okay. I'm okay. You are okay position. I'm okay. It's okay, no matter how the weather is around us. Acceptance comes also with peace, with serenity, with its I accept what is as is,
is, yes.
and I'm at peace with that. Love has even more energy into it. So love, it's expansion. Love, it's a higher field, a more expansive field, more and more open, where It has that warmth quality as well. It has that giving quality as well. And very interesting, because at the level of 540, where unconditional love is the same level with joy, with gratitude, and with humor. So all of these are kind of, in a way, they are synonyms and they complete one another, and they share the same frequency. So starting with the level of love, again, then comes peace and surrender, and then from 700 and higher is the level of complete awareness and enlightenment, and becoming one with our source. So these three zones below 200, then from 200 to 500, the middle zone, it's also very beneficial way. Once we cross the threshold into courage, and we'll talk a little bit more about the lower levels as well that keep us trapped and stuck. But in the middle realm, with courage, neutrality, we open up to life. We step into life, allowing life to be lived in life's terms, rather than us forcing and insisting and struggling for life to be what we expect it to be, what it should be based on our perception, but aligning more and more with life, opening up to it with a level of willingness is the level of yes, where comparing to the level of apathy, at level of 60, where is the level of resistance and no, we say no, we close down to life and everything that belongs to it, with willingness, which kind of is the antidote to apathy. We say yes, we open up, we allow new possibilities, new doors, new windows to be opened in front of us, and we step into them, trusting that everything it's going to be all right, no matter how the experience it's going to be felt. Every experience, we have this knowing that every experience, it's truly beneficial to us. It is a learning opportunity. It is an opening opportunity, and there is no good or bad, but everything is to finally to our own benefit. So this distinction, especially the levels above 200 versus below 200, Hawkins makes a very, this is a huge threshold. It's like life and death. And sure enough, the levels, lower levels, the lower we go, we are moving towards death. Even physical death. There is less and less vital energy, life energy, and we sink into this dark maze, dark hole that it's pulling us. It feels very heavy, and comparing to the levels of 200 and up, which are life-giving. The more we connect with those states, the more we connect with what Hawkins called, made the distinction between power versus force. So power is being aligned with the source of power, the source of life. It's like we are plugging ourselves into the greatest electricity source, and we have unlimited, infinite energy supply. Versus below 200, we believe that we rely on these little batteries, individual batteries of ours, and they are easily getting exhausted. As a matter of fact, the lower the state, the faster they get exhausted. And then we struggle to refill them through the battle with life, trying to get, actually this is below 200, it's the level, are the levels of getting of having, and everything I need to get, everything I need to have, it's outside of me. I need to get love from others. I need to, my needs to be met by others, and everything is outside of me. I need more money. I need more degrees. I need, is the need and having and getting, that it's never enough. Versus with a level of 200 is the level of power. Once again, the more I connect and align myself with the right frequency, with the frequency of truth, the more I am provided for, actually, and everything I need, it is provided through this frequency, through this alignment. So speaking about truth, this is another distinction that Hawkins makes between the levels below 200, which are the levels of falsehood, versus starting with 200, the levels of truth. So what does that mean is that when we are in the states below 200, we don't really see, but we perceive. We perceive through the lenses that we are wearing, through the state of consciousness that we are in. So our lenses are darkly colored by the state of consciousness below 200, and we are kind of blind. So whatever we think it is, it's not. It's the field of so-called illusion. It's as if we are dreaming, and all sorts of dreams are happening, and we live them, we experience them, we feel what it feels like to be in those dreams, most of the time nightmares, but we are not aware that we are dreaming, and we are suffering a lot, but we don't see the reality. And we don't see, we are trapped, whether in our perception of the past or in our preoccupation with what could be in the future. So it's this fantasy land, this imagination, not even imagination, perception land, where it feels real because we experience emotions and feelings. But again, like in a nightmare or a dream, reality, it's outside past or future. Reality, it's right here, right now, and it is what it is now. And most of the time, we are not in what it is now. We are in what we think it is, what it could be, might be, should be, needed to be, what was, and it shouldn't have been that way. So we are projecting, we are misusing often our creative mind power into creating weapons, basically, against ourselves. Our mind, it's a very sharp, very powerful tool. But when we don't tame it, we don't use it in our benefit, then it becomes a very sharp weapon towards ourselves and others. So truth versus falsehood, it's very important when we don't see, when we are blind, to be aware that we don't see, and not to take that as reality. And rather than trying to resolve what we perceive the problems to be, it's important to choose our right state of consciousness, to choose our right to align ourselves with the right position. And from there, first of all, to understand, to see what is as is, rather than what we think it is, or imagine to be, or perceive it to be, but to see it as it is, with a level of, again, neutrality or acceptance. And then sometimes the problems that once we see as it is, what is as it is, we don't see the problems that we used to see before. And again, below 200 levels, we are in this zone of emotionality. Our emotions and thoughts dictate our reality and our perceptions. But again, it's important, if I'm blind, it's important to know that I'm blind, and not to take what I perceive at that time as being real. Also below 200 versus above 200 is the level of integrity versus non-integrity. And this is related to truth as well, because if I'm not honest with myself, first of all, and below 200, there is no real honesty and there is misalignment with ourselves. Then what I see, it's not it, and I may struggle a lot to resolve problems, to make others want them to change and to adjust to my perceptions. But once again, this only feeds our suffering and pains, and it's a never ending field. It only makes us lose life energy and go lower and lower and get heavier. So integrity with ourselves, first of all, to have that radical self-honesty. And this is very simple. Like, these are not concepts that we learn and they seem to be very advanced or sophisticated, or it's not about that. It's about very concretely, practically connecting all of this knowledge with our own truth, with ourselves, and in very simple terms, like, okay, if I were to be completely honest with myself right now, and then dot, and then we step into truth, we step into this self-honesty that truly it frees us, it liberates us from our nightmares, first of all. And it helps us to take our power back. And this is another distinction below 200 versus above 200 levels of consciousness. Below 200 are the levels of victimhood. I am the victim of life, of others, of circumstances. I feel helpless. There is nothing I can do, or I have to force everything to make it happen. Versus starting with the level of courage, I assume the responsibility of my life, of my existence, of my experiences. So responsibility, this word, it's very powerful. It carries our greatest gift in there, which is the power of choice, of free will. Responsibility is responsibility, our ability to respond to whatever it is. And I personally include everything that it's outside of me, people, circumstances, situations. I put them all under the umbrella of the weather. And I learned from my son when he was little that there is no such a thing as bad weather, just inappropriate clothing. So everything outside of me, it's not in my control, it's not in my power, and it's futile to attempt to use my life energy to control it or make it my way. This is the pride level at level 175, where it has to be my way, my opinion. I know it all, I have to direct it all, I have to dominate it all, I have to be the ruler, not just of my life, but everyone else that I'm connected with. So that's the level of pride. But with courage, I make the step, first of all, in being aware that in every situation that I encounter, everything that I see, it's a reflection of where I am within myself. My seeing or my perception, it's a direct reflection of that. I'm part of that even when I'm in relationships with others or situations that involve others. I'm an equal part of that equation. And the only place where I have power is my part of the equation. And my choice, my response to what is, changes the whole outcome of the equation.
Yes.
And I assume that it's no longer about whose fault is it. There is this beautiful joke that okay, if somebody breaks somebody's leg, let's say they hurt them, And the other person, instead of focusing on healing their leg, they focus on why did the other person beat me? Why they hurt me? I didn't deserve that. I should punish them back. I should. We have to assume whatever happened, it happened, but then I assume the responsibility in the present of what do I do with that. And this is where forgiveness, that's what forgiveness means, which is the level of acceptance as well. Understanding that forgiveness, it's not for the other, it's for me, because I carry that in myself, and what was done to me, it's not my responsibility. It's not, doesn't belong to me, what the other person did, but what I did with what was done to me for many, many years sometimes, that's my own doing. That's my own responsibility. So then, with a level of courage, I choose again and again and again and again and again. I use this power of choice to see, okay, with what it is now, with what was done to me, what's my choice now? What do I choose for my well-being, for my life, that is life-giving rather than life-depleting, that it's happiness-giving, that it's being the owner um, of my life and fully assuming it. This is my kingdom, my life, and I fully assume it with all of it. And it's very empowering. It's taking my power back. Before, below the level of 200s, I give my power away to others or to circumstances. That's what puts me in the victim's position. And if it's in somebody else's hands, I'm hopeless. No matter what I do, no matter how much I cry, no matter how much I struggle, the key, it's not in my hands. The key of my happiness is in somebody else's hands. And I take them back. I take back
Somebody
only
else's fault,
kids.
always
It's
under.
fault or yeah. So whatever, that doesn't mean that we justify what others' actions or words. No, they belong to them. But at the same time, I am taking my power back, and I am making a vow towards myself to act in my best interest, to act towards my well-being, to act towards my happiness, my success, and I am the creator of that, right? So the keys, I take them back because I gave them away, and we give them usually in the first part of our life towards others, and we learn that others, I need even what I am, which is about the level of shame. It's up to others, it's up to the world to confirm or to contest what I am. And if somebody mirrors something towards me, it means that I am that. Versus the purpose of the level of shame, of transcending the level of shame, it's actually to really answer one of the most crucial questions in life, the question of knowing who I am in truth, who I came here to be before the world kicked in. So again, these levels, it's with the level of courage, it's very empowering because I release I release all of this. I step out of the dreams, of the nightmares. I step right here into reality, into what is as is. I take it from here. I take my power back, starting with the power of choice, of choosing how to respond, of choosing to make that next step that it's life-giving, despite still having fear and doubts and insecurities and perhaps the burdens of the past, because the levels below 200, what's essential about them is that they require healing. They are the levels that we got trapped in them because of our wounds, because of our past, because of our learnings or mislearnings and miscreations in association with the world. So it's a process of healing, of decluttering, of freeing, of shedding. There is this beautiful process of beautiful metaphor of the caterpillar becoming a butterfly. And it is said that the caterpillar, just like the snake, before becoming a butterfly, it needs to shed 7 layers of its own skin. So in a similar way, now below 200, there are 8 levels, the pride, it's a level in itself. So before pride, actually, that keeps them all together, pride is the so-called reign of our ego. Now ego in itself, it doesn't exist in itself. It's not an entity in itself, but it's a creation that we co-created with the world together. And it's this me that whose function is to survive into the world, to make it into the world, to get what it believes it needs to get through the world. And it doesn't, that's why it's very hard to trespass into courage, because when we are stuck into pride, we believe that we can be very well in life. We can be very rich, very I don't know, highly academic, or very accomplished. And the more we are accomplished, the harder it is to let go, because we believe that whatever we did to get to this point, this is it, this is the formula, and we are holding on to my way, to my opinion. I'm not opening to any other way. Quite the opposite. I feel threatened if something or somebody else is challenging my point of view or my view, and I need to defend it. I need, but it's a very insecure level, because I'm not really aligned with my truth, with who I am. It's still an image. I'm still in the nightmare or the dream zone. So those 7 layers, the anger, the desire, the fear, the grief, the apathy, the guilt, the shame, are just like the caterpillar. They are skins that I made. So again, in co-creation with the world, I created these layers around myself, these artificial man-made layers that I got stuck in them, and they blind my view. They make me believe that I am that, versus being able to see myself for what I am. So shedding them, freeing them, letting them go through healing, of course, because nothing by force. That's the way to transcend and to come into alignment, to come into my power, to open up my wings and to start flying freely and truly experiencing life with a level of courage. It's very freeing. It's the level where I start to see who I am, what I am. I start to see
Mm-hmm.
how I can serve, how I can use my gifts, my talents, my resources, and create the life that I want to create. And then I get the trust. Courage is also the level of trust, which is essential. It's the first thing that we learn in life. Trust or mistrust in the first couple of years of life. And below 200, it's all about mistrust. It's all about, I have to make it on my own. I'm separate. I need to survive. I need to be on top of everything and everyone, and it's never enough. Versus again, with the level of 200, we start coming more and more into alignment. We move, from the horizontal plane, and we stand up and get into the vertical plane. And personally, this is how I see the one of the symbols of the cross, where this is the world on horizontal plane, and this is me, vertical. And there is this force, this gravity force in the world, where the world pulls me in and pulls me, and I have to stand up, to raise up, just like I'm waking up every morning and trying to get out of the bed, trying to get vertical. But the gravity, it's so strong, and the lower the state of consciousness, the stronger the field of gravity, and it pulls me, and I feel that there is no escape in there. But by waking up again and again and again, eventually I strengthen my waking up muscles and vertical alignment. I start aligning myself with my own spinal cord, and I start more and more uh, being in the world, but not of it. I'm here, it's me, I'm in the intersection of me and the world, but I'm vertical, and my direction is vertical. It's not horizontal. And this challenge of, again, constantly waking up. It's not easy to wake up, because just like when we are in bed and we've been in bed for a long time and it feels cozy and warm, it's like, oh, do I really have to wake up? Do I really? Reminds me of this little story joke with there was the congregation in a church, and the minister was talking about heaven, and he was appealing to the audience and say, okay, so raise your hands, everybody who wants to go to heaven. And everybody raises their hands, and an elderly gentleman, he was over 90 years old, he doesn't raise his hand. And the minister is wondering, it's like, but John, don't you want to go to heaven? Yes, of course I want to go to heaven. So then why didn't you raise your hand? Oh, you mean now? So do you have to wake up now? Do I have to let go of all my layers, of everything, all my view, everything that I worked so hard through force to get it so far, to make it so far? You mean now? Like, okay, I want heaven. Like, it sounds nice. It sounds good being in a higher state. But do I have to shed? Do I have to let go? Especially of all my belief systems. This is the hardest one. We think that the hardest is to let go of our, I don't know, wealth or money, where what we accumulated. But the hardest to let go of is what we believe in, our belief systems and those convictions. That's where religion or academia, even science nowadays, like, we get so attached to what I think it's true, to my opinions, to my convictions, that if anybody attempts to challenge those, to change them, I fight for them. I go to war for them, and I'm even able to kill for them, if not physically, at least through words and through my positioning. So it's important to be aware of all of this, to ask even those big existential questions, that they do have answers, but answers not in the reasoning level. The reason is at level of 400. And it's a very high level, is the level of where the greatest advancements, the greatest geniuses of our humanity and their works in science, technology, medicine, literature, it's on this level. But just like pride, and the reason can connect with pride, if we make reasoning the ultimate frontier, if we equate our reasoning, our intellect with the divinity, then we get stuck in there and we fall into pride, actually, because again, as much as reason and intellect despises religion, they tend to both work on dogmatic convictions if they are not free to open up to what's beyond that. Einstein used to say that we cannot resolve a problem with the same level of thinking that we had when we created it. So this applies very much to consciousness. We cannot understand, we cannot view, we cannot resolve anything from the same level of consciousness that we were when we created that problem. So reason to be able, even like nowadays, there is more and more connection between spirituality and the science, with quantum physics, with the quantum fields. So to be able to understand even science itself, we need to go higher. It's like climbing a mountain. If we are stuck in a little point, we see very little. We are trapped in a little cell, believing that's the whole world and there is no escape of it, and the key is outside the door of the cell. But when we break free from that cell and we expand and we go higher on this mountain, we see more, we understand more, and we move from what Hawkins calls moving from content to context. Content is seeing the little cell of the flower and believing that that's the whole flower or the whole garden. And when we open up, and with the rays of consciousness as well, we see the context, and we see everything in the context and the connections and the unity finally between all. So again, under the level of 200, it's mostly where we feel separated, where my individuality has to make it through comparisons, to fight, to making it at the expense of everyone else. Versus the higher we move, the more we see the interconnection. We see ourselves as cells in a body, and there is the whole body. I'm one cell, and as microscopic as I might be, I have my own function that it's essential for the whole body. If I'm a brain cell or a heart cell, I can only be what I am. I don't need to be any other cell in the body. I can only be, and my function is essential. And at the same time, I'm supported by the whole body. The whole body is perfectly designed for the well-being, to take care of the well-being and the right functioning of each cell that is part of it. And there are governing laws, divine laws, that are perfectly aligned. Once again, a cell as microscopic as it is being taken care through the blood flow, through the nutrients, to everything that is provided by the whole body, and at the same time through the co-working of each cell that it's part of it. So then the higher I go on the state of consciousness, the more aware I am of these divine laws rather than the human man-made laws that I'm trapped in with the levels below 200. So it's very freeing. It's very I'm really moving from the little crawling creature of the caterpillar that all is she preoccupied of is to eat more and more, and then the next leave, and going to this metamorphosis process where I'm moving, I'm becoming what I'm meant to become, becoming from this little hungry crawling creature, becoming this colorful flying creature. And there are studies showing that there are butterflies that they can fly up to 4,000 kilometers. So I experience life in a very, very, very different way as a caterpillar versus as a butterfly. And mind you, there is nothing wrong with a caterpillar or butterfly. So each state of consciousness has its own purpose. And if we view life as a wonderful, perfectly tailored school for our soul, for our soul's evolution, for our soul's remembrance in the way, then nothing, again, we move away from this duality view where it's good or bad, moral or immoral, right or wrong. We go beyond that because, as Shakespeare was saying, there is nothing good or bad in itself. It's only the mind, our mind, that makes it so. So we move away from all of these positionalities. We move and align with truth, with being as one, and it's extremely freeing. It's extremely, again, at the level of 500, there is 100% happiness rate. The higher we go, below 200, it's very limited, temporal, conditional fragments of happiness. But the higher we go, the higher this happiness is the most natural consequence. And also with level 200 and up, we experience life from this flowing state. They talk in psychology about this in the zone or flow state. Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi wrote several books and studies about this. Is this state of freedom, of being fully engaged with what is in the moment, and whatever it is, whether it's music or sports or writing or even doing our daily chores, it's not the object that we are engaged with that matters, is the state that we're in. And the state where it's no longer about outcomes and what I need to get out of my work, but there is this oneness, this flow, this engagement, this freeing experience where I'm completely immersed in it. Time and space doesn't matter anymore. I am in this zone, as it's called, and the experience in itself, it's tremendously rewarding. So I don't even need anymore the outcome or my outcome to be recognized or to bring me rewards, because being in this state, it's the reward itself. And this experience, again, with a level of 200 up, we experience it more. That's how we relate to life. That's how it is on a regular basis. And sure enough, again, through this, life becomes this um, amazing, huge playground where the flow experience is very similar to the child's play. So there is this huge playground where I see everything, I connect with everything as it is. And from this place, even of being in this constant wonder and awe and curiosity and openness, and there is this love affair with life itself, and it's really worth living life in these states, versus, once again, below 200, life, it's a struggle, it's a pain, it's I'm stuck, I cannot make it. The harder I try, the more stuck I seem to get. It's the fight, is the war with myself, within myself, with others, with everything, with life itself, and with God as well. So it's a completely, in the same physical plane, we have completely different, radically different life experiences. But all of them are accessible to us. And we, once again, we choose. Even when we don't choose, we still choose not to choose and to be in the space that it could be a lifelong nightmare. So yeah, this is the overall view of the map of consciousness. With our next meeting, we will take each level and briefly talk about each of them to have a better understanding. And when we look at this map, the purpose is not to see, oh, I'm higher or lower, I shouldn't be here, I'm higher than somebody else to compare to, because that's the hand of the so-called ego. And it, no matter what's the object of it, it still gets us trapped in the same state. But the purpose is to open up our view. It's a map. The map is not the territory, but once again, when we are lost, when it's so helpful to have a map in our hands and to see, okay, let me see where I am first of all, and I am where I am. Like if I'm lost somewhere and I need to start moving and driving from there, it really doesn't matter where I'm supposed to be, where I should be, where I was, where others are. I am where I am. And with that radical self-honesty, I see what is as is. I acknowledge that always, 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 no matter what we try to do, to work out with ourselves, to whatever we try to get, it's so, so, so important to position ourselves first in the right state. Um, the ideal one would be the state of love. That's the surest one. It's like once we position ourselves there, everything is going to be resolved from that place. Everything is going to work out. There is a sure way. But if we have difficulties with that because of all the interferences, all the blockages that we acquired on the way, at least to position ourselves on a position where it's higher than 200. So courage or neutrality. Neutrality is where it is what it is again. I am what I am, not good or bad, not right or wrong, but neutral. This is what I learned from my lessons in driving a manual car. I still don't drive a manual car, but when I attempted to learn, this is the only thing that I left with, which is that when you hear weird noises or something goes wrong, go back to the neutral gear. Don't force it anymore. Don't keep going into the no zone, but come back to the neutral. Come back to and reset to the zero position. So the positioning, everything like it's really the most essential. The starting and ending point is before attempting to do anything, to improve, to resolve, to make it better, to go position myself. Where am I right now with myself? If I'm in a position that is lower than 200, I would better stop and not try to resolve anything anymore, but work on to adjust my position, because everything I see from that position, everything I attempt, it only brings more problems, more complications. It pulls me lower and lower, and it's lots of effort with no results. It's that specific work where I work so hard, I put so much effort, but in vain, because at the end of the day, the big boulder comes down and I have to lift it again and again and again, to the point of exhausting myself to death in the process, which is not a bad place, because then I can easily reach the point of surrender. And we'll talk more about that in our upcoming discussions. But positioning ourselves, and if I'm aware that I'm in a so-called negative, there is no positive or negative once again, but the negative state, if it feels bad, it means I'm not in the right positioning. I need to work with that. I need to acknowledge that. I need to heal that part of myself, to free it without force. And then once I'm able to step out of it, to look at what is with new eyes. That's why they say that the night, it's a wise counsel. So when we sleep on it, when we sleep through it, then in the morning we have that new fresh look that we might look back and say, oh, why was that so silly? It felt so strongly before, but now doesn't seem that relevant anymore, and I can approach it with completely different eyes.
Mm.
So yeah, if I don't know how do all of this sound to you, Paula? How you any questions, anything? This is the discussion part that I would love to be able to answer. And
I um, I don't personally have questions. I think you embraced and very gently and thoroughly explained the levels. I see a potential interconnection between the lowest to the highest because I believe we can simultaneously leave all these states. And what comes to mind is that it's a matter of what we choose, which you talk about that yourself, um, what we choose to pay attention to more, to nourish more, to feed more, um, I think that's what it comes down to. It reminds me of another story that I've heard about a grandfather talking to the
yes, I was thinking of the same thing. Yes,
with with the fights and who is gonna win, the good guys or the bad guys. And the grandfather said that the whomever gets fed more. So
yes,
if
I have that story in my book and in
yeah,
Flying
I love
Homes. Yes, yes. So
yeah,
it's
I love those stories because they actually they relate to us, to our life, to our everyday living. But I can see how we can potentially come into this world from, let's say, 0 to 1 and be at the very highest level, some of us, and some of us being at the lowest level, depending on the environment we come in. I can see how we can come at such a high level, and then the environment can um, disturb that vibrant, that frequency, that it's actually unlimited love and acceptance and peace and everything that it's that we are, and how maybe the limiting beliefs of our parents or whomever are the primary caregivers can interfere with that. And if they don't respond to our needs as we are 100% dependent on those that are around us in the beginning, completely dependent, then how I can see how from the very high frequency we can drop like almost instantly to that shame, to that I don't matter, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough. So I can see how, and then back and forth going up, maybe up to the 200, if depending on the people surrounding us and the choices we make as we grow older, because there is so much. It's very interesting how I see, and as you were talking, I saw myself living almost on all levels at some point in life, and then maybe choosing or learning how to choose that, wait a minute, if I don't like what I'm feeling at this moment in this circumstance with these people, with maybe I can choose differently so I can feel right, I can feel or express, or there comes communication. And but there is such a interconnectedness rather between the mind, the body, the emotions, and the spirituality, which sometimes on most of the, let's say, modalities of healing, because this all comes down to having the not the need, but I would say it would be in our best interest to find ways to heal whatever is there that it's paining us, if I can put it that way. So it's important to look at the fact that everything is interconnected and there is now one without the other. And there is that oneness aspect that sometimes we disconnect from, and we think that spirituality has to do with voodoo, goo goo, voodoo, whatever words we may use. and we leave the soul, we leave the heart, we leave behind. It's all about the science, physically where we are at the depthest of let's say cellular level. Where am I at? Degeneration, predisposition, genetically or otherwise. But we forget to put in there at the level of the heart, at the level of the soul, at the level of frequency, which we are energy, we are frequency, but we forget to put it all together. I like to use the term of Humpty Dumpty because we fall, but we come back up. And the world right now, I believe, needs this awareness. So I'm grateful to be here with you and hearing you explaining. And I'm sure there are many ways to roam, but they all, depending on which road you choose, you're still going to get to Rome eventually, or Roma. But
Exactly.
you make those choices and then it comes. I love the fact that it's you become responsible. So you reassess you choose basically and reassess your answers, your actions, and it's a matter of taking responsibility for that which you feel and that you are faced with, and just find peace in that and say, okay, so what can I do now? And I love even the way you touched upon the forgiveness aspect. It's not about forgiving the person, condoning and being okay with what that person did or didn't do.
Yes.
It's a matter of reconnecting with yourself and finding peace. So you can allow that person to be who they are, but you also make a different choice if that doesn't sit well with you.
That's right.
It's not about right and wrong. It's about it is.
It
And
is.
it's
That's
so hard if you are at the lowest level, below 200, to because you are all about me and how depleted I am, and I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel yet, if that makes sense. That's kind of how I see it. So I don't know. I hope that
absolutely beautiful, and I love how you're absolutely right that all roads or paths ultimately lead to Rome. They take us home. They take us where we are coming from. They help us find our way back home. And everybody has their own path. It opens up at the right time in very personalized way for each of us. And you also mentioned about stories, and yeah, my book of stories, Flying Home, it's another path where through the path of the heart, through the path of the child's heart, through stories, we step out of our nightmares, of our unwanted dreams, and we understand, we see different possibilities, and we use through the models of others and different archetypes that stories are giving us. We can see that, oh, maybe there is another way, and I see there is another way different than what I learned, and I'm willing to try another way to get to the place where it feels like home, and home again, just like love, it's not a physical place, but it's a state of being. It's the state where we finally have arrived, finally feel that I belong here. And here I can be what I am. I am at home, and I'm provided for everything that I need, everything that I wish. It's here. It's here for me in this beautiful kingdom. And where I feel completely loved. I am in love. I feel the peace and the unbounded restfulness, and it's I basically can just be, and what I am, being what I am, it's absolutely everything that it needs to be. We can return home our way, one way another, even through struggles and pain. It's our way home. And we don't need to choose pain and struggle. There are the roots. All roots do lead to the center, to home. So we can also choose, do I choose the path of suffering, or do I choose the path of perhaps playing, being in the flow, or perhaps the path of love? Every path is accessible to us. And once we are aware that I can choose differently, that these options, this whole menu map, it's available to me and it's up to me, then it's extremely freeing, and we can speed up our travel as well, and make it also more enjoyable. So next time we will start with each level, and we will talk a little bit about each of them individually, and how is it reflected in our life, and how we can transcend it, whether through stories or through other ways that are available to us at this time.
I'm looking forward, and we welcome you to ask questions if anyone has questions or suggestions how we can better be of service. I like what you said, Sophia, about the fact that this is just a map, and perhaps by looking at it, we can choose where we want to be, like becoming aware of that it exists, different levels exist, and they're all here, they're all within us.
Yes, yes.
They're not
And
outside
this is
of
it.
us.
Exactly. You pointed so well. It's not about keeping chasing and getting and going and never finding, searching and searching and searching and finding, but it's really and I will end with this joke from Bula, the Romanian funny character that Bula in this story he's a universal archetype, but for us, for Romanians, his name is Bula, and he lost his key, and he has been searching the whole day for the key and being so mad and frustrated and not finding it. And so finally his friend shows up and it's like, oh, what are you doing, Bula? Well, leave me alone. I'm searching for the key and I cannot find it. I've been searching and searching and searching. Oh, Bula, don't worry. I'm here with you. We are friends. I'm going to help you. Did you lose it here? Well, I didn't lose it here. I lost it inside, but this is where the light is on.
Yeah.
So we
I
are
remember
Bula.
I
Many
remember
regards.
reading this. I think it is universal because I read it in one of the books that I've studied myself in
Yeah,
English. So I think it's translatable. It's so true.
absolutely. They're the
Instead
human
of looking where we
archetypes.
lose, we're looking where the light is. It's a great metaphor. I love it. I love it.
It is inside of us. This travel, we make a U-turn, and instead of trying to go further and further away from us, we make this U-turn. And if it's here, no matter how dark it is, no matter how blinded we are at the time, we are going to find it because it's here. If it's not here, no matter for how long, how many lives we search, we are not going to find it. But once we search in the right place where it actually is, we are going to find it sooner than we think. But it's important to go in the right place. So I think this is a
I like to
really
say though, Sophia, because you're talking about finding it, and if it's not there, you don't see it. I've learned though that just because you don't see it, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So I think we're
exactly.
gonna tap into that as we speak of each level or
Yes, yes, absolutely. This is the ending point for our meeting today and the starting point for our next meeting. Yes, exactly. If we don't see it, it doesn't mean it's not there. So thank you for this beautiful closing. And thank you everyone for being with us, for staying with us. And more if this resonates with each of you, more will come. And we are very, very happy to share this space with everyone who wants to join. And thank you, Felicia, Paula, Felicia.
give you a big hug.
Yes, yes, we do. Bye, bye for now.